drive that open, honest, and direct communication throughout the company, and it does take time. But we are making good progress. I'm confident we will get there. We're not there yet, but we are making a lot of progress. Seriously, why shares? Look, the reason that we chose shares, there are actually many reasons. One, and it controls our passenger service system, that controls our loyalty program, that controls our website. It's very important for you to be able to control your own destiny, and something important that. Secondly, we had spent at the old Continental, on the old Continental side, a lot of time building application layers which were off of shares, which made our ability to go to market and for example, dynamically price things like Economy Plus much more readily than could have done in the Apollo system. Where we didn't do a good job is we didn't have the front end built in time when we needed to migrate to a passenger service system, which meant from the United agent side, they had to learn sort of a new language and a little bit of the meet the parent style language, right, where you're typing away. Now, subsequent to that, we've developed two big apps for our agents, and in next month, actually, we're doing beta testing of the completely integrated front end, which is a very simple, very easy to use, very rapid, point and click, and it's all built as well with responsive design for whatever device it's on, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a PDA, whether it's a touchscreen, whether it's a normal computer. For point and click, very simple, easy to understand, easy to use, very powerful technology that agents will have, which will be much better than they've ever had before. But it was so important for us to get to a single loyalty program and a single website and a single passenger service system that we couldn't wait for the front end to catch up. And we've spent a lot of time, and we didn't just, in the front end that we have developed, we didn't do it just by sort of standing around and deciding, sitting in meetings of management and IT geeks, figuring out. We actually formed groups of coworkers and got them together and got their advice and got their buy-off, so that we could have the functionality and we could have the clarity and we could have the speed that our agents want and our agents need. So we're making enormous progress, but that was the reason behind shares. What's United doing to improve its reliability? A lot. In fact, we're running much more reliably now than we were, thank God, than we were this summer. The summer was rough without question. God, it is hot in here. Have you noticed it?
Yes.
I feel like I'm back in Houston. We were very focused on our operational reliability, and I will tell you that a portion of our fleet is an older fleet, and it had been underinvested in for many years, and that's what happens when you go bankrupt. I mean, and that's why you want carriers to be healthy, because you don't want that. And so we have some catch-up work to do. We've got some inventory allocation work to do. We've got some preventative maintenance work that we need to do. But we are bringing up actually the reliability of our fleet, and we're doing it in lots of ways, not only for our existing fleet, but we ordered 150 brand new narrow-body airplanes that began to come in 2013. And we've got the 50 787s coming. We've got 25 A350s coming. So obviously, with brand new airplanes, we have enormously improved reliability. What we need to focus on, and we are focusing on improving the reliability of our existing, catch up for many years of underinvesting. But that was one of the purposes of the merger, was to be able to create the long-term profitability and sustainability and the sufficiency of that profitability, so we could make those investments, not only in the fleet, but in the experience on the ground, and the customer service experience, and improvements in the technology. All things we're investing in. We're spending an enormous amount of money doing that. But we're focused on improving our reliability, and we've actually, and you've seen it, you've experienced the numbers. We're actually doing quite well on time, and we will continue to improve because you've got to have operational reliability. All the product investment you make in the world doesn't matter if you can't be relied on to get our customers where we need to go. And we have enormous focus on it, and I'm confident that it will. Not only have we achieved good reliability, we're going to continue to improve it in 2013 and beyond. How much longer till we will begin seeing Wi-Fi on board? Let me tell you, we were late to the Wi-Fi party, but I think that it ultimately will be to our benefit and your benefit, because we decided not to install your grandfather's Wi-Fi. satellite-based broadband Wi-Fi on our entire fleet.
Wow.
What that means is you'll be able to be in touch wherever you are in the world, except the Great Firewall in China temporarily, and some of our polar routes where it can get out of satellite range for a period of time. What that means is we can dramatically improve over time our customer service because we can be in contact with you live when you're on the airplane. We can re-accommodate you. If you don't like it, you can re-accommodate yourself, and we'll re-accommodate you, let you know if for some reason your bag's not on board. We can make sure that you know that. You don't wait at the carousel. We can run out to your hotel. You can text us or you can call us back to your address. There's lots of things we'll be able to do, including our ability to communicate with our crews as well in flight, and the broad range of not only productivity from a business perspective, but entertainment options that we'll be able to offer you through serving servers on board and streaming video servers on board. And we also made the decision from a business perspective to essentially own the broadband itself, buy it and resell it, and own the portal. So we can control not only the sites that you can go to for free, we can control the advertising, we can control the pricing. We have a lot of control over the product, so I think it's a very good decision. When you'll be able to see it, we'll have about 300 airplanes done by the end of next year. We got the first A319 done. We started on a small airplane for the experiment. We're working on the 747 now. 747 is particularly important because we need improved entertainment in the back of that plane without pressure. But we'll have 300 airplanes done, and then we'll push to finish the rest of the airplanes off as quickly as we can. One thing you should know is the 787 does not have Wi-Fi. No 787 has Wi-Fi yet, to my knowledge, because when Boeing designed the airplane, it was sort of in the early days of Wi-Fi, and it's not so easy to just cut a hole, and it's not, you're not cutting a hole in aluminum, you're cutting a hole in carbon fiber and all of the mesh for all the electromagnetic stuff. But Boeing is working very hard to certify the aircraft for Wi-Fi. As soon as they do, we will then retrofit the aircraft we have, and then we'll start taking delivery of the aircraft with Wi-Fi. Does social media have any influence on the decisions United makes? Yes. Next question. Look, of course, the world has evolved where social media is very important, and it brings both good things and difficult things. It brings an expectation of immediacy. I remember many years ago, and I will confess, I remember and I'm old enough to remember the early days of faxes and the expectation of immediacy that faxes brought, and then email, the expectation that you haven't answered my email in 3 minutes. What's the matter with you, right? And social media brings a level of expectation of immediacy that's can be very hard to fulfill for a company of our size with the breadth and diversity of people we carry. Remember, we carry almost 150 million people a year. But it is important. We do pay a lot of attention to it. We spend good coin on it as well. And it's an evolving area, but a very important area. Of course, it has an effect on us, and it's something actually that we do in effect embrace, because it is very much how people communicate and how word gets out, and it's an important aspect of today's society. Why sell upgrades for, quote, tens of dollars? I'm going to talk to our pricing guys. Even when their pre-members haven't been upgraded. Look, this is a balance, right? You want us to make money. It's good for you if we make money. You need us to be profitable. You need us to be here. You need all airlines to be here. It's good. That's why consolidation has been good in this industry, because it helped us stabilize what has been a very fractured industry with wild swings and underinvestment, and airlines going out of business, and airlines going bankrupt, and employees being laid off. And the things that you want, which is reliability, and you want breadth of network, and you want a modern product, and you want efficiencies, and you want good technology. You can't do that in a fractured, broken, perpetually bankrupt industry. So there is a balance between upgrading people and doing things like day of departure paid upgrades. And do we have that balance perfect? Of course we do. We experiment, we try things, but we need to be able to sell some of the seats up front as opposed to upgrading. And whether those are award redemptions, or whether those are miles of money, or whether those are paid upgrades, we need to find that balance. And I'm not telling you we know exactly what that balance is, and we'll continue to experiment, but we need to continue to bring cash in the door. You think the current 10 hubs are the right answer for United? I think we should probably paint all the airplanes yellow and hub Mexico City. You know, the answer is I don't know the answer to that question because hubs earn their business every day. I mean, a hub earns its business literally every day. And I cannot guarantee the existence of a hub because in a business you have to earn your freight, right? We have very powerful hubs for the most part. We have two smaller hubs, in Cleveland and Denver, but we have very powerful hubs, and our hubs do well for us, and they are very important to us, and we continue to make investments in those hubs. But change can come, you know, over time. There's no way of knowing. Do I think we would develop a new hub, a different location? I think that's probably unlikely, just because that is so expensive to do and such a risky proposition. Plus, we have very powerful hubs as it is. Could you know, levels of flying in any individual hub change? Of course they can. There's no question about it. But we have got wonderful coworkers who work really hard to make sure each of our hubs does well and to maximize the profit of each of the hubs. And we want to be as supportive of our coworkers and as supportive of our customers as we can. But ultimately, the decisions like this are based on economics. It's easier to board a bus in Calcutta than United aircraft. What are you doing about this? Our boarding process needs some work. There's no question about it. And we've experimented with different things since as we've been integrating, and we don't have it right yet. You know it, and I know it. But we are and will be making further changes. You know, there's a balance of what you really want is obviously efficiently boarding the aircraft, but also recognizing your best customers and making sure that they have advantageous boarding. And many of these things we've brought on ourselves because as we've charged for checked bags, and as we haven't effectively enforced the carry-on rule as carriers, we've just incented people to bring the kitchen sink on board, right? And that slows the boarding process. And we have lots of tiers, a very sophisticated loyalty program, tiers of elites. And those people expect to be treated preferentially, and they should be treated preferentially. And as a result, the experiments we've done, we don't have it down right. And let me tell you, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Airplanes don't make any money sitting on the ground, right? We need to get them up, and we need to get them flying, we need to be efficient. So you are going to see some changes in our boarding process as we continue to tweak it to get it to something that works well for everyone. We think there's a lot of room for improvement, we know that. And part of that is also going to be some changes, physical changes at the airport. There's a very large project underway at United in terms of some things we're going to be doing at the gates and the hold rooms in terms of physical infrastructure and technology that I think will make for a much more efficient boarding process and actually a better experience for our customers. Because when you get very crowded boarding gates and you get people who are worried about whether they get their bag in the overhead bin, and they sure as hell don't want to check it and pick it up, right? That's why they brought it with them, other than to avoid the fee. That puts a lot of stress on people. And the last thing you want to do is stress people getting on board the airplane. You want people to have a good flight experience, including the time at the airport. So you're going to see us continue to change the boarding process, and I'm confident we will be able to improve it as we do so. Are you worried about a U.S. Airways merger? Worried probably isn't the right word. I personally believe that airline consolidation globally and in the U.S. has been an unalloyed good for consumers, for communities, for our coworkers, for our shareholders. We've long had two fractured industry, disarray in the industry, continual high costs of capital, continual bankruptcies, continual worries of our customers who would be there tomorrow. You know, are my loyalty points going to survive? I mean, all the concerns that people have, and consolidation is good. Now, from United's perspective, if U.S. Airways and American were to merge, and I don't know whether they do, I don't have any inside information. I wish I did, but I don't. And so I don't know. But if it should happen, we would lose U.S. Airways in Starlines. And Starlines is a wonderful thing, and U.S. Airways is a good partner. And that would hurt United to lose U.S. Airways as a partner in Starlines. So I'm assuming that U.S. Airways would go one world, and I'm pretty confident that American probably would come to Starlines. So that's a negative. On the positive is we would have further consolidation in a business that's been too fragmented for too long. And I personally believe that the benefits to the industry and the benefits to United of further consolidation would outweigh the cost to United losing U.S. Airways as partners. But I do not know whether it will occur. There are many reasons where consolidation makes sense. I look at what we've gone through in our integration. I think I'm going to enjoy watching that. But I don't know whether it'll occur or not.
That's a good.
So on the Dreamliner, I was a flight attendant on the Dreamliner coming back yesterday because we had our coworker celebration. So I was serving as a flight attendant when we would take our coworkers up and bring back up to airplane. And I was kept very busy making a lot of espresso and cappuccinos. And let me tell you, they are superb. I had many of them, and it also helped me understand that our flight attendants do a superb job. They did a lot of work across an airplane that large, and they were superb. There were 7 of us on the aircraft serving as intern flight attendants, if you will, 7 of the officers. And at the conclusion of the flight, they announced that our applications had been accepted, but they would get back to us in a couple of weeks whether we get job offers. How about the decaf? You won't leave me alone, will you? Look, the issue with decaf is very few people drink decaf. And so what you end up doing is brewing a pot of coffee for one person, brewing a pot of coffee for nobody. And over a network our size, that gets very expensive. And that's why we went to decaf. Is it the perfect product? Of course it's not. And I don't have a better solution. I really don't. I would love to get a better solution. If you've got some suggestions, I'm all ears. And with that, I've got time for a couple of questions live. So fire away. Who's sorting it? I don't want to call people to get mad at me, so I'll have to do it.
Hi, Ben Jacobson.
Hi.
I just had a question, with the Star Alliance is an awesome alliance, but it seems in the industry there's almost subgroups. You see like with Lufthansa and Singapore giving access to their availability, their lounges. United people may not have access to when flying first class. They've kind of created this like ultra premium product, and United being the largest airline in the world, we give full access to all of our inventory to them. They're not getting full access to us. What can we do to?
Look, it's a great question, and alliances are just that. They are alliances, and there are sub-developments within the alliances. When you're in an alliance meeting, it's like a chief executive board meeting that I go to, there are also perceptions of the haves and the have-nots within the alliance. For example, we're in a joint venture with Lufthansa. We're in a joint venture with ANA. Not everybody's in that joint venture, right? And so there are deals that are struck bilaterally that are not that are within the alliance, where the alliance carries, but not everybody has the same deals. And that can become confusing to customers. I agree. We try to make alliances as seamless as we can, but we all know they're not perfectly seamless, and we work to make them as seamless as we can. And also, different carriers have, to the lounge issue, have different lounge networks. So we have a vast lounge network, much larger than most people have got. And so there's also issues in reciprocity because, years ago, I'll never forget. Remember Kiwi? Remember that over there? Like, I don't know, 3 places or 9 places or wherever it was. I remember when I was the old general counsel of the old Continental, I got a call from Kiwi saying they'd like to exchange air travel cards. So their people could fly wherever they wanted on the old Continental. We could fly wherever we wanted on Kiwi. Being a good business person, I said, no, right? So there's also differences in perceived reciprocity, but I understand. I don't have a solution for you because these are bilateral deals. But it's important that we get good lounge access across the world, and we do have that good lounge access across the world when you're up front. There's no question if you're flying up front, you need it. But many carriers have different levels of lounges. Very premium lounges. Lufthansa is a good example of that. Lufthansa first class lounge, great place to go, by the way. Been there myself. I really like it. And so, but you do have these discounts. I'm going to let Rasan pick people.
Sven Whitman here. I have a question about the United management over ROPS in the past
past disasters that we've seen. We've seen United and many stations cancel flights many hours and in certain cases days before the competitors were still operating flights for many hours after United had already ceased service to that station. We've seen it in Boston, we've seen it in Dulles, and a few other stations across the system. Is this a broader philosophy at United to just cancel out everything during your ops instead of trying to push out as many flights as you possibly can?
Well, let me say that there are all types of levels of frequency of irregular operations. Let's take something that's really material and significant, like Sandy. It's important for us to make sure that we get not only our passengers and our crews to safety, but that we stage ourselves for picking up promptly as soon as we possibly can afterwards. There's never a philosophy of not flying a flight, because when you don't fly a flight, you don't have something called revenue. And that's generally a bad thing. But safety is always paramount. And you're also dealing in situations where you often have imperfect information and changing weather forecasts, and particularly changing wind forecasts, which are important. I personally think that we do a pretty good job in making sure that we're always focused on safety. We need to. And I would rather err on the side of safety when it happens. And yes, can that inconvenience the passengers? Of course it can. But I think that we've got the right balance, and we will never fly a flight to try to get some revenue when there's any issue with the safety on that flight. We just won't do it. And I'm not saying that other carriers do that. I'm not saying that at all. That different people can have different judgments. Different people have different volumes of aircraft in particular stations. Different people have aircraft with different aircraft with different capabilities as well. I got time for one more question.
So I want to touch on the JV, the antitrust joint ventures, over the Atlantic with like Lufthansa and Swiss, over the Pacific with ANA. If we really are to treat them as metal neutrality, so we're willing to fly either airline equally, then there should be quality on lifetime mile credit, upgrade access, maybe global sources revenue credit, and so on. The theory behind it was that you would pick whichever airline to operate a certain route, I think, and customers should fly whichever airline. But the impacts and services for us are different. Second part of my question is, please fix the Dulles concourse.
Let me deal with Dulles in a moment. I'll do that actually first if I could. Look, Dulles needs work, there's no question about it. And we've historically at the old United, they were sort of on again, off again, on again, off again about the Dulles. We need to improve that, and we're actually in talks with MWA for that. But let me also say that you need to make sure, we need to make sure as we do that what we end up building there is not going to destroy the profitability of the Dulles hub. You can end up with Taj Mahals, particularly in government projects, where it becomes frightfully expensive to operate there, and that's not good for anybody. But we do understand the Dulles needs work. That's again underinvestment for many years that we need to catch up with. On the joint ventures, I mean, you're somewhat conflating the legal concept of the joint venture and the legal concept of the antitrust immunity and the practical aspects of flying on the joint venture. There are always going to be, our joint venture airlines, there are always going to be differences in loyalty opportunities, because each carrier has independent loyalty programs, and Cantley has different approaches to loyalty programs. As these joint ventures evolve, however, I think that some of those discontinuities will disappear. We don't have a full profit share joint venture, for example, with ANA. You start joint ventures fairly simply, and you learn from them, and you earn each other's trust, and you see how things work out, and you get deeper and deeper levels of sophistication and cooperation. And I think the things that you point out will come over time as those joint ventures evolve. Look, I want to stop and thank you very much for your time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming to do. And importantly, I appreciate so much your flying United. Thanks.
Thank you.